I'm Tyler Brennan, 34 years old. Last Tuesday, I sat in my father's accountant's office and learned I'd been erased from his will 6 months ago. Before I could process it, Dad leaned forward and asked if I could help out the family by covering his $47,000 in overdue taxes. The accountant wouldn't make eye contact. That's when I knew something was very wrong. Before I tell you how I exposed everything, please like and subscribe if family drama speaks to you. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. Now let me start from the beginning. The email came on a Monday morning while I was reviewing client files at my accounting firm in Denver. Subject line, Urgent, Family Financial Matter. My father's accountant, Harold Winters, wanted to meet the next day at 2 p.m. No explanation, just a calendar invite and an address downtown. I called Dad immediately. "What's this about?" "Just some paperwork, son. Nothing to worry about." His voice had that careful tone he used when he was hiding something. "Harold needs you there to sign a few things." I'd been helping Dad financially for 3 years, ever since Mom died. Small amounts at first, $500 here, $1,000 there. Medical bills, he said. Home repairs. I never questioned it because that's what family does. You help when someone needs it. The meeting was scheduled for the next afternoon. I should have known then that something was off. Dad never involved me in his financial planning before. But I pushed the worry aside and went back to work, trusting that whatever this was, it was routine. I had no idea I was walking into an ambush. Harold Winters' office was on the 14th floor of a glass building that reflected the Rocky Mountains. The waiting room smelled like leather and expensive coffee. Dad was already there, sitting in one of those chairs that cost more than my monthly rent. He wore his good suit, the navy one he saved for weddings and funerals. "Tyler." He stood up and hugged me, but it felt stiff. Wrong. Harold appeared in the doorway. 50-something, gray hair, glasses that made him look like he knew everyone's secrets. "Gentlemen, please come in." We sat across from his massive oak desk. Harold opened a folder and slid a document toward me. "This is the current state of your father's estate plan." I glanced at the papers. Legal language swam before my eyes. Trust provisions, asset allocations, beneficiary designations. Then I saw it. Under primary beneficiaries, there was only one name, Veronica Brennan. My stepmother. My name was nowhere on the document. "I don't understand," I said slowly. "Where am I?" Harold shifted in his chair. Dad stared at his hands. "The will was revised 6 months ago," Harold said quietly. "Per your father's instructions." 6 months ago. While I was still writing checks to cover Dad's expenses. While I was still showing up for Sunday dinners, still being the dutiful son. Dad finally spoke. "Tyler, before you get upset, there's something else we need to discuss." That's when he asked me to pay his taxes. $47,000. Harold pushed another document across the desk. "Your father has substantial tax arrears from the last 2 fiscal years. The IRS has issued a final notice." I stared at the number. $47,000. My entire savings account wouldn't cover half of that. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked, though I already knew. "We were hoping," Dad said carefully, "that you might be able to help. As family." The word tasted bitter in my mouth. Family. The same family that had just erased me from any inheritance without so much as a phone call. "You cut me out of your will," I said flatly. "And now you want me to pay your debts." "It's not like that," Dad started. "Then what is it like?" Harold cleared his throat. "Perhaps we should focus on the immediate issue. The tax liability needs to be addressed within 30 days, or the IRS will begin asset seizure proceedings." I picked up the estate document again. This time, I read more carefully. The revision date was March 15th. 6 months ago, almost to the day. I'd sent Dad a check for $2,400 on March 20th for what he said was a roof repair emergency. There was a second signature on the will revision. Flowing, elegant handwriting that I recognized immediately. Veronica Brennan. Witness and executor. My stepmother had watched my father sign away my inheritance, put her own name on it, and then let him keep asking me for money. Who pushed for this change? I asked quietly. Dad and Harold exchanged a look. That look told me everything I needed to know. Veronica entered my father's life 2 years after Mom died. She was 15 years younger than him, worked in real estate, and had a smile that could sell ice to penguins. Dad was lonely and grieving, and she filled that emptiness with attention and affection. I tried to be happy for him. I really did. But something always felt performative about her kindness. The way she touched his arm just so when other people were watching. The way she called him darling in public but barely spoke to him at home. Still, I kept my mouth shut. Dad seemed happy, and that was what mattered. The wedding was small. Just family and a few of Dad's old friends from the country club. Veronica wore cream instead of white and carried roses that probably cost more than the entire reception. I was Dad's best man. I gave a toast about new beginnings and second chances. 3 months later, Dad asked me for the first loan. Now I understood why. I stood up from Harold's desk. I need time to think about this. Tyler, please, Dad said. We don't have much time. You had 6 months to tell me about the will. I think I can take a few days. I walked out before either of them could respond. My hands were shaking so badly I had to stop in the hallway to breathe. 6 months. 6 months of lies and manipulation while I kept being the good son. My phone buzzed. A text from Veronica. Heard the meeting went well. Looking forward to seeing you at dinner Friday. XOXO. I deleted it without responding. Friday's family dinner was at Dad's house, the same house I grew up in. Veronica had redecorated after the wedding. Gone were Mom's floral curtains and family photos. Now everything was minimalist and modern, all clean lines and neutral colors that made the place feel like a hotel lobby. 12 people sat around the dining table. Dad's brother, Uncle Marcus, and his wife. My cousin Bethany and her husband. A few of Dad's country club friends and their spouses. And Veronica, sitting at the head of the table like she'd always belonged there. I arrived late on purpose and took the only empty seat at the far end. Veronica smiled at me like nothing was wrong. Tyler. So glad you could make it. We were just talking about the Hendersons' vacation to Tuscany. Forced conversation filled the air. Wine flowed. Veronica played the perfect hostess, laughing at jokes and keeping glasses filled. Dad sat quietly, picking at his food. Then, between the main course and dessert, he said it. Tyler's been such a help to me financially these past few years. Dad raised his wine glass slightly. Though I'll admit, he's not always the best with money. Still learning the ropes at that accounting firm of his. The table went quiet. A few polite laughs. That's actually why we've made some changes to the estate planning, Dad continued. Want to make sure everything's handled by someone with a steadier hand. My face went hot. He was justifying cutting me out of the will by lying about my financial competence. In front of family and friends. While still expecting me to pay his taxes. Veronica touched his arm. Darling, perhaps this isn't the time. But the damage was done. Uncle Marcus looked at me with something like pity. Bethany stared at her plate. I excused myself to the bathroom. That's when Bethany cornered me in the hallway. Tyler, wait. Bethany grabbed my elbow. She was 28, worked in graphic design, and had always been the only cousin who actually talked to me at family gatherings. Not now, Beth. Yes, now. She pulled me into Dad's study and closed the door. What your father just said out there, that was garbage. You know that, right? I'm aware. There's more. She lowered her voice. I've been worried about Uncle William for months. Every time I visit, Veronica's there, controlling every conversation. She literally doesn't let him talk to anyone alone. She's his wife. She's isolating him. Bethany pulled out her phone and showed me her message thread with Dad. The last 5 texts from him all said variations of the same thing. Veronica says I can't make it, or Veronica thinks we should skip this year. When's the last time you had a real conversation with him? She asked. I thought about it. Months. Every interaction went through Veronica first. Every plan had to be approved by her. Every phone call ended with, let me check with Veronica and get back to you. You need to look at his finances, Bethany said quietly. Something's not right. Dad tried to ask Uncle William about some investments last month, and Veronica shut it down immediately. Said it was too stressful for him to think about. How bad is it? I don't know. But Tyler, those tax arrears Harold mentioned? I don't think that's the whole story. She was right. I could feel it. Dad had always been careful with money. Conservative investments, paid his taxes quarterly, kept meticulous records. For him to owe $47,000 to the IRS meant something had gone seriously wrong. Or someone had made it go wrong. I returned to the dinner table, smiled through dessert, and started planning my next move. Monday morning, I called Harold Winters. I need to see my father's complete financial picture. All accounts, assets, liabilities. Everything. Tyler, I'm not sure that's appropriate given that he wants me to pay $47,000 of his debt. I kept my voice level. I think it's very appropriate. If I'm being asked to cover his tax liability, I need to understand why it exists. Harold was quiet for a long moment. Let me see what I can do. 3 hours later, I was back in his office. This time, Dad wasn't there. Just me, Harold, and a stack of financial statements that made my stomach turn. The tax liability was real. But it wasn't from poor planning or bad investments. It was from unreported income, specifically, unreported income from the sale of assets that should have been part of Dad's estate. Where did this money go? I asked, pointing to a transaction from 8 months ago. $340,000 from the sale of Dad's commercial property downtown. Harold hesitated. That's where things get complicated. He pulled up another document. A bank account I didn't recognize. Offshore, registered in the Cayman Islands. The account holder's name, Veronica Brennan. Over the past 18 months, $470,000 had been transferred from Dad's accounts into Veronica's offshore account. Small transfers at first, then increasingly large amounts. The commercial property sale had been the biggest single transaction. Does my father know about this? I asked quietly. I've tried to discuss it with him. Veronica is always present for our meetings. She says she's managing their joint finances and that the offshore account is for tax efficiency. Tax efficiency that's creating a $47,000 liability? Harold removed his glasses and rubbed his eyes. If the IRS audits your father and finds this offshore account, we're not talking about $47,000 anymore. We're talking about fraud charges. Potential criminal prosecution. My hands went cold. Does he understand that? I don't think he understands any of it anymore, Tyler. I think he's signed everything she's put in front of him without reading it. I stared at the papers spread across Harold's desk. Evidence of systematic financial manipulation. Evidence that my stepmother had been slowly draining my father's assets while making sure I wasn't in the will to question it. What happens if this gets reported? Harold met my eyes. Full IRS audit. Criminal investigation. Your father could lose everything. Or Veronica could. If she was the one who'd orchestrated all of it. I gathered the documents. I need copies of everything. That night, I tried calling Dad's cell phone directly. It rang 4 times before Veronica answered. Tyler. How lovely to hear from you. William's just finishing dinner. I need to talk to him. Alone. Of course, darling. But he's had such a long day. Can it wait until tomorrow? No. I heard muffled conversation, then Dad's voice came on the line. Tyler. What's wrong? I saw the financial statements. All of them. Silence. Dad, we need to talk about the offshore account. That's Veronica's department. She handles all the investment strategy. Investment strategy that's generated a $47,000 tax bill and could trigger a federal investigation? You don't understand how these things work. His voice shifted, defensive now. This is sophisticated financial planning. Veronica's real estate background gives her insights that she's draining your accounts, Dad. How dare you? The words came out sharp. After everything I've done for you, raised you, paid for your education, Gave you every advantage. And this is how you repay me. By attacking my wife. I'm trying to help you. By accusing Veronica of theft. By questioning my judgment. By telling you the truth. The truth, he said bitterly, is that you've never approved of my relationship with Veronica. You've never accepted her. And now you're using this tax situation as an excuse to drive a wedge between us. Dad. I gave you a chance to step up, Tyler. To help family when we needed it. But instead, you're throwing baseless accusations around like a child. I heard Veronica's voice in the background, too quiet to make out the words. You have until Friday to decide, Dad said. Either you pay the taxes and we move forward as family, or you walk away. Your choice. He hung up. I sat in my apartment, staring at my phone, and realized I'd just been given an ultimatum by a man who'd already cut me out of his will without telling me. But I'd also been given something else, a deadline. Thursday afternoon, Veronica called. I let it go to voicemail twice before finally answering. Tyler, darling, we need to talk. Her voice was smooth, controlled. Your father is very upset about your conversation the other night. I'm sure he is. He loves you, you know, despite everything. But this accusatory attitude, it's not helpful. I waited. Let her talk. The tax situation is unfortunate, but it's not complicated. William made some investment decisions that didn't work out. These things happen. But family helps family, don't they? Family also communicates honestly with each other. We have been honest. A slight edge crept into her voice. Everything has been above board. Harold has all the documentation. Including the offshore account? Silence. Then, I see Harold's been sharing confidential information. Is it confidential? Or is it hidden? Those are sophisticated structures that most people don't understand. Veronica's tone shifted, became almost condescending. Your father and I consulted with several tax attorneys. Everything is perfectly legal. Legal and ethical aren't always the same thing. She laughed, a sound like breaking glass. You know what I find interesting, Tyler? Your father mentioned you'd react this way. He said you'd never understood his financial decisions. That you'd probably try to interfere. Is that why you had him change the will? To cut out anyone who might question you. The will was changed because William wanted to ensure his assets went to someone he trusts. Someone who's actually been there for him emotionally these past few years. The implication hung between us. Here's what's going to happen, Veronica continued. Tomorrow is Friday. Your deadline. You're going to transfer $47,000 to the account Harold provided. You're going to do it because you love your father and because it's the right thing to do. And if I don't, then you'll be cut off. Completely. No more Sunday dinners. No more family gatherings. No relationship with your father at all. She paused. He's already very close to that decision. I'd hate to see him make it final. You assumed I'd never check the documents, didn't you? The question caught her off guard. Her careful composure slipped for just a second. What? The will revision. The offshore transfers. You assumed I'd just pay the taxes and never ask questions. That I'd be the dutiful son and write the check without looking deeper. I don't know what you're talking about. But I heard it in her voice. She knew exactly what I was talking about. I'll give you my answer tomorrow, I said, and hung up before she could respond. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat at my kitchen table with every document Harold had given me, organizing them chronologically, creating a timeline of when each transfer happened, when the will was changed, when Dad started asking me for money. The pattern was clear. Veronica was methodical. She'd waited 6 months after the wedding before making her first move. Small requests at first. Could William help with a down payment on an investment property? Then larger amounts as she gained more control. The will revision came after she'd already moved $200,000 offshore. Insurance, probably, in case anyone started asking questions. But she'd made one critical mistake. She'd changed the will without ensuring Dad understood what he was signing. And that, I realized, might be enough to reverse it. Friday morning, I stopped playing defense and started documenting everything. Every phone call with Dad, I recorded. Every email from Veronica, I saved with timestamps. Every financial document, I scanned and stored in 3 separate locations: my computer, an external hard drive, and a cloud service. I created a spreadsheet tracking every dollar I'd given Dad over the past 3 years. 23 separate payments totaling $31,400. 4 roof repairs that never happened. Medical bills that insurance should have covered. Emergency expenses that coincided perfectly with Veronica's offshore transfers. I'd been funding her theft without knowing it. At noon, I received an email from Harold. Subject line, prior agreements, urgent. Attached was a document I'd never seen before. An estate planning agreement from 15 years ago, when Mom was still alive. In it, Dad had explicitly stated that any revision to his will would require approval from both his spouse and his children before taking effect. Mom had signed it. Dad had signed it. Their attorney had notarized it. The agreement was still legally binding, which meant the will revision from 6 months ago violated a prior legal contract. I forwarded the email to my own attorney, Kevin Walsh, with a single question: can we use this? His response came back in minutes: absolutely. Call me. Kevin Walsh's office was smaller than Harold's but felt more honest. No expensive art on the walls, no leather furniture designed to impress. Just files and law books and a man who'd helped me navigate Mom's estate after she died. Tyler. He stood and shook my hand. I read everything you sent. Sit down. I sat. Kevin spread the documents across his desk like he was laying out a hand of cards. Your stepmother and your father made several serious mistakes here. Walk me through it. First, the prior agreement. Your father signed a legally binding document stating he wouldn't revise his estate plan without consulting you. He violated that agreement when he changed the will 6 months ago. Can we challenge it based on that alone? We can. But there's more. Kevin pulled out the offshore account statements. These transfers constitute financial elder abuse if your father didn't fully understand what he was signing. And based on what you've told me about Veronica's control over his communications and decisions, we have grounds to argue undue influence. What does that mean practically? Kevin leaned back in his chair. It means the will revision could be invalidated entirely. Your father's original estate plan would be reinstated. Hope flickered in my chest. So I'd be back in the will. Yes. But there's a complication. Kevin's expression grew serious. If we challenge the will and present evidence of the offshore account, we could trigger an IRS investigation. Full audit of your father's finances. Harold mentioned that. Then you understand the risk. Your father could face criminal charges. Tax fraud, failure to report foreign accounts. These are federal crimes, Tyler. I stared at the documents. What if the offshore account is entirely Veronica's doing? What if Dad didn't know? Then he's still liable. It's his money being transferred. His tax returns that failed to report it. Kevin paused. Unless we can prove coercion or mental incapacity. Can we? Maybe. But it would destroy his reputation. Publicly paint him as either a criminal or incompetent. Is that what you want? I thought about Dad. About Sunday mornings when I was a kid, him teaching me to throw a baseball. About him staying up all night to help me finish a science project in 8th grade. About him holding my hand at Mom's funeral and telling me we'd get through it together. That wasn't the same man who'd cut me out of his will and asked me to pay his debts. Kevin, if we expose the offshore account, what happens to Veronica? He smiled slightly. Now you're asking the right question. Tell me. If we can prove she orchestrated the transfers without your father's full knowledge or consent, she faces the criminal charges instead of him. Fraud, theft, forgery if she signed anything on his behalf. Kevin pulled out another document. And based on these bank records, I think we can prove exactly that. I looked at the evidence spread before me. A choice crystallizing. Revenge would hurt Dad. Justice would hurt Veronica. I want justice, I said quietly. Kevin nodded. Then let's be very careful about how we proceed. We spent the rest of Friday building the case. Kevin requested additional documents from Harold, who was quietly cooperative once he understood we were trying to protect Dad rather than attack him. The evidence was damning. Veronica had power of attorney over Dad's accounts, granted to her 8 months after their wedding. Every major financial decision since then bore only her signature, including the will revision. She forged his signature? I asked. Not exactly. Kevin showed me the document. See how shaky this is. I'd bet money she had him sign while distracted, possibly while medicated or impaired. Maybe told him it was something else entirely. Can we prove that? If we depose your father, yes. If he testifies that he doesn't remember signing this or that Veronica told him it was a different document, we can establish coercion. But deposing Dad meant confronting him publicly, forcing him to choose between his wife and the truth. There's another option, Kevin said carefully. We could use this as leverage. Tell Veronica privately that we have evidence of fraud and coercion. Give her a choice: restore the original will and return the offshore funds, or face criminal prosecution. She'd never agree to that. Then we proceed with the nuclear option. We file to invalidate the will, we submit the offshore account evidence to the IRS, and we let the system sort it out. Kevin met my eyes. But understand, Tyler, once we do that, there's no going back. Your father will know you exposed everything. Your relationship with him may never recover. I thought about Veronica's ultimatum. Pay the taxes or lose your father forever. She'd tried to corner me. But she'd forgotten that corners are where desperate people fight hardest. Set up a meeting, I said. Dad, Veronica, you, me, and Harold. Tell them we need to discuss the tax situation one more time. When? Next Tuesday. That gives us time to finalize everything. Kevin smiled. You're setting a trap. She set one for me first. I'm just returning the favor. The meeting invitation went out Monday morning. Harold's office, Tuesday at 10 a.m. Subject: estate planning and tax resolution, final discussion. Dad called me within an hour. Tyler, son, I'm glad you're ready to talk sensibly about this. I've been thinking a lot, Dad. About family. About responsibility. That's good. That's very good. Relief flooded his voice. Veronica will be pleased. She was worried you'd be stubborn about this. I just want to make sure everyone understands the full situation before we move forward. Of course. Harold will walk us through everything. It's really quite simple once you see the numbers. Simple. He thought this was simple. I'll see you Tuesday, Dad. Tyler. I'm proud of you for doing the right thing. The words should have felt good. Instead, they felt like betrayal. Veronica texted me an hour later. So glad you've come to your senses. Family first. Always. See you Tuesday. XO. I didn't respond. That night, I rehearsed what I'd say. Kevin coached me on how to present the evidence, how to stay calm, how to give them a chance to respond before we triggered the legal mechanisms that would destroy everything. Remember, Kevin said, the goal isn't destruction. The goal is restoration. We want your father's original will reinstated and the offshore money returned. If they agree to that, we can potentially avoid the IRS investigation. And if they don't agree, then we file Wednesday morning. And they'll both wish they'd taken the deal. Tuesday morning arrived cold and clear. I wore my best suit, the charcoal one I saved for important client meetings. I needed armor for what was coming. Harold's waiting room felt different this time. I wasn't the confused son being told he'd been erased. I was the accountant who'd done his homework. Dad and Veronica arrived together. She wore cream, like always. He looked tired. Shall we? Harold gestured to his office. We filed in. Kevin sat beside me. Veronica's eyes narrowed when she saw him. Who's this? My attorney, Kevin Walsh. This is a family meeting, she said sharply. We don't need lawyers. Then you won't mind if mine stays. I sat down. Please, let's begin. Harold started with the tax summary, the same $47,000 figure. Veronica nodded along like she'd heard it 1,000 times. Dad stared at his hands. Before we discuss payment options, I said quietly, I have a question about the estate planning timeline. Veronica's expression didn't change, but something shifted behind her eyes. The will was revised 6 months ago, I continued. Around the same time, some significant asset transfers occurred. What's your point? Veronica asked. My point is transparency. I pulled out the first document from my folder. Specifically, transparency about the offshore account in your name, Veronica. The one that currently holds $470,000 of my father's assets. The room went absolutely still. Harold shifted in his chair. Kevin remained motionless beside me. Dad looked up slowly. What offshore account? William, this isn't... Veronica started. What offshore account? Dad's voice was louder now. I slid the bank statements across the table. This one. Registered in the Cayman Islands under Veronica Brennan. Funded by transfers from your investment accounts over the past 18 months. Dad picked up the papers with shaking hands. I watched his face as he read. Confusion first, then recognition, then something that looked like betrayal. You said this was a joint investment fund, he said to Veronica. You said it was for our retirement. It is. Then why is only your name on it? William, you're not understanding the tax implications. I'm understanding just fine. Dad stood up. His chair scraped against the floor. I'm understanding that you moved $500,000 of my money into an account I can't access. Veronica's composure finally cracked. I was protecting us. Your son has been trying to undermine our relationship from the beginning. I needed to ensure our financial security. By lying to me? By being smart? She stood too, facing him. You want to leave everything to Tyler when he's done nothing but criticize me, criticize us, since the day we met? I'm your wife, William. I'm the one who's been here for you. Not him. Tyler's been writing me checks for 3 years, Dad said quietly. Checks I asked for because you told me we needed cash flow. Because we did. We needed cash flow so you could move my assets offshore? The mask was slipping. I could see it happening in real time. Veronica's careful manipulation dissolving under the weight of direct confrontation. Tell me about the will revision, I said. The one Dad signed without me knowing. The one that violated a prior legal agreement. What prior agreement? Dad asked. I pulled out the document from 15 years ago. The one you and Mom signed. The one that states you wouldn't revise your estate plan without consulting your children first. Dad took the paper. Read it. His hands were trembling. I don't remember signing this new will, he said slowly. Veronica said it was updating beneficiary designations on the life insurance. Said it was routine paperwork. Kevin spoke for the first time. Mr. Brennan, when you signed the will revision, did you read it? Veronica said Harold had already explained everything. That I just needed to sign. Did Harold explain it to you personally? Dad looked at Harold. Harold looked down. You told me it was insurance paperwork, Dad said to Veronica. His voice was barely a whisper. She didn't answer. That's when someone's phone started recording. Veronica saw Kevin's phone first, the small red dot indicating an active recording. Her face went white, then red. You're recording this? This is a private family conversation. This is a mediation session with legal counsel present, Kevin said calmly. Recording is permitted. William, make them stop. Veronica grabbed Dad's arm. This is entrapment. They're trying to destroy me, destroy us. Dad pulled his arm away. Did you lie to me about the will? I protected you. Did you lie to me? Yes. The word exploded out of her. Yes, I lied because you would have said no. You would have left everything to him, she pointed at me. To your precious son who abandoned you after your wife died. I didn't abandon anyone, I said quietly. I've been here the whole time. You judged me. From day one, you looked at me like I was nothing. Like I was some gold digger trying to steal your inheritance. Veronica's voice rose. Well, guess what? I earned that money. 3 years of taking care of your father, 3 years of managing his life, his schedule, his medications. 3 years of being the only one who actually showed up. By isolating him from everyone else? By protecting him from people who didn't have his best interests at heart. His best interests, Kevin said, or yours? Veronica turned on him. You don't know anything about us. I know you moved $470,000 into an offshore account without proper disclosure. I know you had Mr. Brennan sign a will revision under false pretenses. I know you've systematically isolated him from family members who might question your financial management. Kevin pulled out another document. And I know that constitutes financial elder abuse under Colorado state law. The recording kept running. Dad had sat back down, his head in his hands. This is insane, Veronica said. William, tell them. Tell them I would never hurt you. Dad didn't respond. William, I need you to leave, he said quietly. What? I need you to leave this office. I need to think. Veronica's expression cycled through shock, anger, and finally calculation. She grabbed her purse. If you do this, she said to Dad, if you side with him against me, you'll lose everything. I'll make sure of it. Is that a threat? Kevin asked mildly. She looked at him, then at me, then at the phone still recording. For the first time since I'd met her, Veronica looked genuinely afraid. I want a lawyer, she said. That's very wise, Kevin replied. You're going to need one. She walked out. The door closed behind her with a soft click. Dad sat in the silence, staring at the offshore account statements. Tyler, he finally said. I'm so sorry. The apology hung in the air like smoke. Dad looked older than I'd ever seen him, smaller somehow, like the truth had physically diminished him. I trusted her, he said. After your mother died, I was so lost. And Veronica, she made everything feel manageable. She took care of the bills, the house, all the details I couldn't face. He looked up at me. I didn't know she was stealing. Kevin opened his briefcase. Mr. Brennan, I need to show you something. For the next hour, we walked Dad through everything. The timeline of transfers. The offshore account.